Welcome to the deep dive. Today, you've brought us into the compelling world of Okinawan Karate-Do.
Mm-hmm.
We have a collection of excerpts here that explore its origins, its core beliefs, and
Hmm.
even some of the, fundamental ways practitioners move.
Right.
Our aim is to really get under the skin of this martial art and understand what makes it tick.
Exactly. You've given us some, well, fascinating material that looks at Karate-Do from several angles. We're going to try and
Mhm.
go beyond just describing it and really understand its significance
Okay.
and what it might tell us about sort of broader ideas.
Okay, let's unpack this then. Our main source for this dive is a book called The Essence of Okinawan Karate-Do.
Okay.
It first appeared way back in 1976, thanks to Charles E. Tuttle Publishing, and then the paperback arrived in 1998.
Quite a history there.
Yeah, and it's quite remarkable how widely this book has traveled, being distributed across, well, pretty much the entire globe.
That suggests a real global interest, doesn't it, for a
Yeah.
long time?
It does, and it even has all the official library markings, which gives it a certain weight.
It certainly does. That widespread distribution suggests, yeah, a long-standing global fascination. And those cataloging details point to its recognition as a legitimate area of study.
hmm Now, before we get into any kicks or punches, there's a really important heads up right at the beginning of the book.
Ah, yes.
It's a disclaimer. It strongly advises anyone thinking about starting martial arts training to have a chat with their doctor first,
Crucial.
because it can be quite physically demanding. It's a serious reminder that this is more than just like a casual pastime.
Absolutely. It's a real physical commitment. That's a
Mhm.
key point to emphasize right away. Highlights the demands involved and the need for, prioritizing safety.
Following that, we have a couple of forewords. The first is by Junji Nishime, who at the time was involved in the Japanese national diet.
Right?
He connects karate to the development of both body and spirit within Okinawan schools. He sees it as deeply intertwined with Okinawan culture, their way of life.
That's fascinating, isn't it? Linking physical training directly to spiritual growth and in an educational context, too.
Right.
This holistic view where physical discipline fosters mental and spiritual development. It's a recurring theme in many martial arts.
It seems central here.
Yeah, and it's significant that it's highlighted right at the start from a cultural perspective.
Then we have a foreword from Jugatoma, involved with the Okinawa Physical Culture Association.
Right.
He focuses more on karate's global recognition as both a competitive sport and a traditional martial art.
Ah, the sport versus art distinction.
Exactly. He sees this book as valuable for spreading what he calls the purest version of karate. Sounds like he wants to ensure its authentic form is understood as it gets popular.
That emphasis on the purest version, it brings up an interesting point, doesn't it? About how arts evolve when they travel.
Yeah, the tension between tradition and adaptation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There's often that natural tension.
Right. And that leads us into the preface, which starts with a really striking Okinawan saying, karate ni sente nashi.
There is no first attack in karate. Powerful.
It really is. It immediately sets a tone, explaining karate is fundamentally a weaponless art of self-defense, originated in Okinawa.
Developed by peace-loving people, it says.
Yes, it paints this picture of people developing it for protection without relying on weapons. And the author reflects on how this philosophy still holds relevance today.
That principle, it goes beyond just, not throwing the first punch.
It suggests a whole mindset, right? De-escalation, last resort.
Exactly. It impacts how practitioners might approach conflict in general. That Okinawan saying is incredibly profound, gets right to the heart of its defensive nature.
So, okay, with that foundation, let's dive into part one, history and philosophy, starting with a brief history of Karate-Do.
Let's do it.
Our source tells us Okinawan karate grew out of local fighting methods known as Te,
Right, indigenous methods.
which were then influenced by Chinese martial arts, and two key aspects emerged,
Kala,
the forms,
the prearranged sequences.
and kumite, which is sparring, controlled fighting.
That blend of indigenous Te with Chinese arts, that's a common pattern. You see it across East Asia.
And introducing structured forms, the kala and sparring kumite, that was crucial for formalizing it, wasn't it?
Absolutely. Took it from raw self-defense skills to a more structured art.
And before it became formalized as karate, there was just Te, described as the basic art of self-protection in Okinawa. Apparently, it developed using the body's natural tools, hands, feet, elbows, knees,
Natural weapons.
because people didn't have easy access to other defenses. The source even connects this to how judo, yawara, kendo, and aikido originated in mainland Japan.
That focus on using the body's natural weapons is really defining for many early martial arts. Reflects a very practical need.
And it mentions Kanyo Higuona, born 1853, who documented his knowledge of tote, another early term for these methods.
Right, Higuona and Tote. That gives us a historical marker, shows these techniques were being studied, recorded as early as the 19th century. It wasn't just passed down orally.
Then we see the appearance of two main styles. Shuri-Te, from the town of Shuri.
And Naha-Te, linked to Naha.
The source gives some general characteristics. Shuri-Te was often quicker, faster, maybe better for smaller people.
That's the general idea, yeah, more mobile.
While Naha-Te was more steady, rooted, perhaps better suited for larger individuals.
But it stresses these weren't rigid boxes.
No, definitely not. Lots of variation. There's even an illustration showing differences in foot movements between Matsubayashi-Ryu, which is Shuri-Te,
And Goju-Ryu, which is Naha-Te.
Did the source suggest if these styles had different philosophies on, say, initiating conflict or just physical traits?
It doesn't explicitly detail differing philosophies on starting fights, no. But the physical characteristics themselves suggest different approaches.
How so?
Well, Shuri-Te's quickness might lend itself more to a reactive counterattacking style, waiting, then moving fast.
Okay.
While Naha-Te's rootedness might favor a more grounded, maybe absorb and strike approach, waiting for the opponent to commit more heavily.
Interesting. So the physical implies the strategic.
To an extent, yes.
Yes.
The emergence of distinct styles like these is natural as masters develop their own interpretations. The footwork differences visually highlight that mobility versus stability.
So we see these two lineages emerging. What then made this art, once maybe more localized, become widely known? This is where it gets really interesting.
The popularization phase.
Right. The source details how karate transitioned from a secret art, or at least less public, to public awareness, especially after Okinawa became part of Japan.
That political change was key.
And around 1904, it was even introduced into Okinawan public schools as physical education.
Wow, that's huge. Taking it right into the mainstream of Okinawan culture and education.
The book credits a whole list of important figures for this. Itosu, Yabu, Hanashiro, Funakoshi, Kian, Motobu, Morin Yabiku, Choshin Chibana, Shinpan Gusukuma, Anbun Tokuda, and Kenwa Mabuni. Some big names there.
Absolutely. Foundational figures. You mentioned Funakoshi. Gichin Funakoshi is incredibly well known for bringing karate to mainland Japan.
Exactly. Him and Choki Motobu are specifically mentioned for taking it to Tokyo and Osaka.
Big step.
And initially, it was even recognized by the Nippon Butoku Kai, a very respected martial arts organization, but as a kind of hidden or less-known art.
Still, that recognition, even as hidden, gave it significant legitimacy, didn't it?
Must have.
Yeah, it helped create a pathway for broader acceptance on the mainland. Showed the established Japanese martial arts world was noticing Okinawa's methods.
Then came World War II, and the source describes a post-war revival. Karate became an international sport.
Alongside wrestling, boxing, judo.
Yeah, and interestingly, the U.S. administration's initial ban on martial arts in Japan, it inadvertently helped karate and kendo.
How so?
They were seen as safety valves, apparently, and were actually encouraged.
That's ironic, a ban leading to encouragement.
Right. Plus, people had more free time, more instructors were available. Karate really took off.
It's amazing how history works sometimes. The ban created this unique situation where karate and kendo kind of flourished. Fertile ground for growth.
This period also saw formalized sparring, kumite, develop, with rules, protective gear.
The move towards sport.
Definitely. The All-Japan Karate-Do Championship started in 1963. Big milestone. The source outlines the fundamental waza techniques allowed. Tsuki-waza, punching, uchi-waza, striking, and kari-waza, kicking.
But restrictions too, like no head punches initially.
Right, and they had a scoring system based on getting a crucial point, judged subjectively by referees.
Well, subjective judging. Always a point of discussion in combat sports.
And those discussions are touched upon here. The source talks about the impact of the tournament system, pressure on younger students to just win.
Losing sight of the art.
Potentially. It even mentions a tragic incident in 1970. A college karate club member died during shigoki.
Which is that term for overly harsh, almost brutal training. Right.
Exactly. A really stark reminder about safety and ethical instruction.
Absolutely critical.
The tournament rules were revised in '63, trying to emphasize points over winning at any cost, but the referee judgment issue remained.
It's a tough balance.
And there's a clear concern raised that this focus on tournaments might overshadow the original essence of Okinawan karate.
That tension between traditional practice and competitive sport is common. The pressure to win can shift the focus from holistic development to just scoring points. Techniques might get optimized for rules, not necessarily reality.
Yeah, that makes sense. So with all that in mind, the author offers recommendations for studying karate.
Okay.
Stressing history and tradition, consistent kata practice, Kumai focused on martial art principles, not just sport.
Oh, well-rounded approach.
Incorporating supplementary exercises, using the makiwara.
The striking post for conditioning.
Right. And even including zazen.
Yeah.
Zen meditation.
Interesting. For focus and mental discipline, that really emphasizes the interconnectedness, physical, historical, mental, traditional methods. Zazen highlights that mental and spiritual dimension.
It's a comprehensive vision for study. Now, part 2 shifts gears. My life with karate. More personal. The author briefly mentions how karate became a path to better health and well-being for them.
That personal story helps illustrate the broader benefits, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Beyond just self-defense, health is a big motivator for many.
Seems so. The author then talks about a renewed dedication after overcoming health challenges. And then we get these fascinating insights into Enkichi Arakaki, born 1899.
Oh, one of the masters.
Yeah. Emphasizes his early commitment, his influence on karate as an art. There's a story about him training despite hardships, injuries, real dedication.
Unwavering.
He was known for unique techniques, too. Sumasaki Jerry, that's a toe-tip kick.
Ouch, precise.
And Nidon Jerry, a flying front kick. And there's even a story about Arakaki facing off against a sumo wrestler.
Woo! Now that sounds like a story. Really underscores technique over size, potentially.
Definitely. These personal stories bring the history alive. Arakaki's dedication, his unique techniques, they show how individuals shape the art.
And the sumo encounter, intriguing, suggests karate principles work even against other strength-based styles.
Next up is inspiration from Chotoku Kian. Smaller guy, apparently.
But known for mastery of quick, effective movements.
Exactly. His early training, his teacher's influence, and another great story about Kian facing a larger opponent, Matsuda, and demonstrating superior skill.
Again, technique over size, a core principle.
Kian set up his first dojo training hall in Naha, taught important kata, Pasai, Chintu, Kusanku.
Mentioning the specific kata provides that lineage, the connection to particular forms.
He passed away in 1945, age 76. Finally, in this section, the focus shifts to kumite development under Motobu, Choki Motobu.
Motobu, known for his practical focus.
Right. Emphasized practical fighting techniques in kumite, maybe more than formalized kata. He moved to Osaka and Tokyo to teach.
Spreading the art.
And there's that famous story about his challenge match against a foreign boxer.
Ah, yes, the boxer fight.
Motobu, despite the size difference, showed surprising agility and effectiveness, really emphasized real-world application.
And he specialized in that Keikokenzuki punch, didn't he? The four-finger knuckle one.
That's the one. He returned to Okinawa in 44, 73 years old after a stomach illness, and kept focusing on kumite based on his practical experience.
Motobu's focus on real-world application, testing skills against other styles. It highlights that practical effectiveness strand in karate's development. His victory over the boxer, however exactly happened, became a big deal for showcasing karate.
Okay, moving on to part 3. Thoughts on the mastery of Karate-Do. More on core principles, ethics.
The deeper stuff.
Starts with precepts in the mastery, key principles for serious study, recognizing human limitations.
Humility, important.
Continuously striving for self-improvement. Understanding limits before pushing them, with this intense suggestion. Practice 6 times if you think you can only manage 3.
Wow. Pushing boundaries. Common in mastery disciplines.
Respecting teachers and seniors. Cultivating mind and body. Viewing karate as a lifelong journey of self-discipline.
These precepts really lay out a roadmap, don't they? Beyond just physical training. Humility, perseverance, respect, integrating mind and body.
It's a profound guide for the serious student. Next, the maxims of Matsubayashi-Ryu Karate-Do. Core maxims for this specific style.
Okay.
First, courtesy. Begin and end with courtesy. Respect seniors, juniors. Seek peace through practice. Show respect through the bow, the ojiji.
Courtesy and respect. Foundational in Japanese martial arts. And seeking peace through karate links back to karate ni sentenashi, right?
Exactly. Reinforces that defensive, non-aggressive core.
Makes sense.
Second maxim. Cleanliness. Clean body, clean training area. Hygiene for concentration, preventing injury.
Cleanliness reflects discipline, respect for the space, for oneself, practical for health, but also creates a focused environment.
The final maxim. diligence. Steady, hard effort leads to results. It connects this to post-war recovery in Japan, the spirit of Bushido.
That connection to post-war recovery in Bushido gives it cultural context,
Yeah.
links personal karate discipline to broader societal values of perseverance, commitment, powerful framing.
Following this, attitudes to be kept for karate training. Similar ideas, but more specific guidance.
Like what?
Begin and end with courtesy, again. Focus the mind fully during training. Maintain harmony between breath and action.
Breath control. Key for power and stability.
Execute each kata with perfect form, maximum power, and finish practice with courtesy, acknowledging the beginning.
These attitudes reinforce mindfulness, focus, that mind-body integration. Crucial.
Then, the ethics of the dojo describes the training hall, the dojo, as a sacred place.
Right. Not just a gym.
For cultivating courage, superior human nature, stresses respect for seniors, black belts, lists guidelines, keep it clean, orderly, equipment stored properly.
Viewing the dojo as sacred underscores the seriousness, the respect needed, the hierarchy, the rules. They foster that disciplined, respectful learning environment, essential for transmitting traditional knowledge.
Finally, in this section, training hints. Practical advice.
Good stuff.
Understanding vital body parts, importance of warming up circulation, injury prevention, recommended sequence for head and trunk movements and warm-ups.
These practical tips highlight safety, a scientific understanding of the body. Proper warm-ups are crucial. Prevent injuries, maximize performance. It's not just about the mystical side.
All right, let's move into part 2, techniques. Starting with interpretation of the kata of Matsubayashi-Ryu Karate-Do.
Okay, the forms themselves.
The source explains kata are organized sequences, offensive and defensive techniques, absolutely crucial for developing both.
They're like the memory banks of the art.
Yeah, preserving techniques, principles, passed down generations. It points out the intermediate movements link basic and advanced techniques, leading to effective sparring, kumite.
So they're not just sequences, but a living textbook for applying the core concepts.
The author stresses that fully understanding the basic movements is the absolute foundation for kata, for overall proficiency.
Takes time, I imagine.
Oh, yeah. It says typically requires around 3 years of basic training before you can even really grasp the movements of kata.
3 years just for the basics.
And a further 7 years to truly learn them.
Wow, 10 years total. That really emphasizes the dedication needed. No shortcuts. Solid foundation is everything.
The source then breaks down basic movements into 5 categories. Kamae kata, ready stances.
Tachikata stances.
Semakata, attacking technique.
Yukitaka, blocking techniques.
And karakata, kicking techniques.
That categorization gives a clear framework, doesn't it? The building blocks, offense and defense.
Let's dive into some of these. First, under Kamae kata, the ready stances, we have the Soto Hachiji Shizentai Dachi, open leg natural stance.
How'd that look?
Feet shoulder-width apart, toes pointing out at about a 45-degree angle, like 10 and 2 on a clock. There's an illustration.
Okay, I can picture that. The ready stance is the foundation, right? Balance, stability, potential for quick action. Those details of foot placement, alignment, they're crucial.
Moving on to Semakata, attacking techniques. First is Seiken Waza, fist technique.
The standard punch.
Yes, but described meticulously. Fingers bent at second joints, clenched tight, thumb pressed against forefinger and middle finger. Wrist must be straight, aligned with the forearm.
Delivers force with the first 2 knuckles.
Exactly. And it notes that the ridge of the hand near the thumb is also used for blocking and striking.
Dual purpose.
Yeah.
Efficient. That correct fist formation is fundamental. Generates power, prevents injury. The detail shows the precision in karate.
Next is Haijiate, elbow smash.
Close range power.
Described as a powerful blow. Elbows, knees, palm heels used. Targets chest, ribs, legs, usually when very close, maybe grabbed.
Makes sense.
Lists 4 variations in Matsubayashi-Ryu. Tate Hijiate upward.
Could be useful if grabbed from behind.
Yoko Hijiate forward. Ushiro Hijiate backward. And Sasei Hijiate supported. And references specific kata.
Elbow strikes are powerful close in. Using the bony structure, the variations show adaptability, and linking them to kata shows how they're integrated formally.
Then we have Shuri-Te, palm heel smash.
Open hand strike.
Yeah. Open hand, wrist bent back, strike with the heel of the palm. Effective close range. Targets. Chin, groin, chest, kicking leg.
Versatile target list.
4 variations listed too. Joden, upper. Chudan, middle. Get-dan, lower. And Tomo, circular. Again, references to kata.
Palm heel strikes offer an alternative to the fist. Broader surface, maybe less risk of hand injury. The variations show its versatility for different targets, different angles.
Moving to ukitoka, blocking techniques. Source mentions several key
Like,
ones.
yeah.
Seiken Uda Yuke, forearm block, Shuto and Hiro Yuke, knife hand and reverse knife hand blocks.
Common ones?
Shote Yuke, palm heel block, Hiji Yuke, elbow block, and a unique one, Hangetsubara Yuke, half moon foot block.
A foot block.
Interesting. These blocks are essential, right? Deflect, redirect attacks, create openings for counters.
Absolutely. The variety arm, hand, even foot shows a comprehensive defensive system. That foot block is intriguing. Shows defense isn't just upper body.
Finally, basic movements. Kata, kicking techniques. 3 detailed.
Okay.
Kyo-bugeri, chest kick. Uses the ball of the foot, Josukate. Targets chest, solar plexus. Appears in Pinnan the 4th, Kusanku.
Powerful target.
Fuku-bugeri, abdomen kick. Uses toe tips, Sumasaki. Kicks the lower region. Found in Fukigata-to Tekken, Pinon others.
More precise, maybe. With the toes.
And Kinteki-geri, groin kick. Uses the instep, Soko. Kicks the groin or side of the legs. Seen in Shin too.
Oof. Effective targets. These kicks show the legs as powerful weapons. Different parts of the foot, different targets, highlights the precision and control needed.
And again, references to specific kata show how they fit into the sequences.
Right. Integration is key.
That leads us to part 5. Sequential movements of the 18 kata. Source reiterates kata are formalized sequences.
The core practice.
States Matsubayashi-Ryu has 18 kata. From Shuri and Tomari traditions plus 2 later for Yogata kata.
18 forms. That's a lot of knowledge.
Practicing them teaches not just movements, but transitions, rhythm, application, in sequence. The fact there are 18 underscores the depth and complexity of the style.
Each kata probably has a specific focus, right?
Yeah.
Different combinations, principles. Like the Pinnan series being foundational.
Exactly. While others like Kusanku might have more advanced stuff. The source then lists all 18 by name.
Let's hear them.
Fukigata Rest, Fukigata II, Pinnan Shodan, Pinnan Nidan, Pinnan Sandan, Pinnan Yondan, Pinnan Godan.
The Pinnan series, yeah?
Naihanchi Shodan, Naihanchi Nidan, Naihanchi Sandan.
Naihanchi too, important set.
Nanku, Wankan, Rohai, Wanshu, Pasai, Gojushiho, Chintu, and Kusanku.
Quite a list.
It notes they're described in detail later in the book, which we don't have here. But this list gives a clear overview of the Matsubayashi-Ryu system kata. Each has its own characteristics, history, emphasis. Studying them is a huge part of training.
Absolutely. That list provides a clear map of the forms within the system. Each one is a world unto itself, really.
Well, that brings us to the end of our deep dive into your sources on Okinawan Karate-Do. We've journeyed through its history, explored its philosophies, touched on foundational techniques, all as presented here.
It's been quite a tour.
We've seen its evolution, ancient self-defense to a global martial art, and highlighted those enduring principles. Courtesy, diligence, continuous self-improvement.
Understanding that history really gives you a deeper appreciation for the traditions involved. If you were ever to explore practicing it yourself.
What's particularly compelling, I think, is that interplay. Practical self-defense, rigorous physical discipline, and these profound philosophical principles.
Yes, that blend. And the concept itself, a weaponless art developed by people seeking peace. It offers a unique perspective on conflict, on self-preservation.
You can see parallels, can't you? This holistic approach, it mirrors principles in other disciplines aiming for mastery, sports, arts, maybe even business.
Absolutely.
And that really makes you think, doesn't it? This idea, a weaponless art created by peace-loving people. What does it really tell you about the core values embedded in this tradition?
It's definitely something to ponder. What values does that necessity breed?
Indeed. And there's so much more to explore. The specifics of those 18 kata, the individual stories of the masters, the broader Okinawan context.
For sure. This deep dive, hopefully, provided a solid foundation and maybe sparked some curiosity for further investigation.